You're listening to Headspin by Aslan's Place, bite-sized episodes where Dr. Paul L. Cox and Jeff Stow help you understand biblical concepts that may seem confusing but can be understood with a proper foundation.
So, Paul, we're talking about dimensions and realms, and we've talked about doors and gates and physics. And the thing that occurs to me is so many times it seems like the Bible and science are at odds with each other, that believers are put in a position where they're forced to believe one or the other. But it seems to me, with what we're talking about here, the Bible and science are completely in alignment with each other. Am I wrong?
You are absolutely correct. So what happens to me, Jeff, is that as I'm ministering to somebody, I may get a thought or an idea. I might use my hands. I might discern something, and then I think through the whole. I believe this through the Holy Spirit. I'll get this idea, and very often it is in the idea in the arena of science. It might be in the arena of mathematics or um, medicine. So often, very often, I'll call my son Brian, who really is quite capable in many areas of the fields of science. And I'll say, okay, Brian, I'm discerning this. Is there any scientific basis for this? And then he'll go off brilliantly and tell me all kinds of things that I do not understand. But I'm thinking, okay, so I'm on the right track. We have been working recently in the area of generational prayer, and we have noticed that an issue like a physical or emotional issue sometimes comes down the family line. And very early on, Jeff, I was criticized for this, that this was not true, this is not necessary. Well, now we have found that absolutely it is absolutely true scientifically. There's a new emerging field of study called epigenetics, which is examining how what happens to me uh, in one generation actually can affect my DNA and RNA and then be passed down to the next generation. I remember this was way back probably in the 60s. I read a Time article where uh, they noticed that if if you learn to play the piano, perhaps not very well, but they had found like their children could play the piano better. And this again is a evidence of epigenetics where there is something that is taking place that does affect the next generation. So I find it great fun to verify that scientific truth is biblical truth, but also is pragmatic in that it can help lead to healing. I can if I'm praying for somebody with their body, and we just did something yesterday where we were dealing with nasal cavities and with the ear. So I get a picture on my computer of the ear canal or of the nasal passages, and I put my finger and I can say, okay, there's a problem here or there's a problem there, and it will actually match through discernment what their problem is. And often when we deal with that, then they get better.
Wow, this is so encouraging. You know, scientists have a passion for their study, and if they're believers, I think many times they feel like they have to put their passion up on the shelf and quote unquote have faith because the
Yes.
two don't coincide. And to think that science can actually propel them in their faith, that's just awesome.
One of the great joys of my life is to give credibility to people who are scientists that you do have validity. You do not need to separate science from spirituality. That truth is truth, and it will work in the spiritual world.
That's fantastic. Thank you so much, Paul.
Thank you.
Headspin is hosted by Jeff Stow and produced by Aslan's Place Ministry. For more information on Aslan's Place, visit aslansplace.com.